What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Breathe in Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today, we have the owner of Cali BBQ.media, and he is also a podcast host of the Digital Hospitality podcast. Shawn, Walchef, thank you for coming on.
Mason, what's happening? Thanks for having me.
Man, we were just talking. It seems that you are a new father. Well, semi-new.
Semi-new, yes. I have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter, and my beautiful wife and children. They're currently visiting their grandparents in Bulgaria. So on the other side of the earth.
Wow.
Yes.
What's in why Bulgaria?
My wife is from Bulgaria, born and raised. Actually, my grandfather was also from Bulgaria. So I'm a quarter Bulgarian. That was my in to meet my wife.
Yeah. There you go. Everyone has to have that in at some point.
Yes. You definitely have to have an in with an Eastern European woman.
No, absolutely. So how did y'all meet?
We met here in San Diego. She was here studying with 4 of her girlfriends, studying English on a work exchange program. And I was lucky enough to meet the group of girls because my brother, I have a half brother who's blonde hair, blue eyes, looks like he just came out of the Pacific Ocean. Definitely doesn't look a quarter Bulgarian. He met the girls at the bar and he heard them speaking in a different language. He didn't even know what Bulgarian sounded like. I mean, he knew how my grandfather spoke at family dinners, but yeah, he gave me a call and was like, dude, you got to come down and meet these Bulgarian girls. And I came down there, and I had already been to Bulgaria, visited 3 times with my grandfather to help him write his life story. So when I was talking to them, I was name dropping villages that didn't show up on Google Maps, so they actually believed I was from Bulgaria.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do at some point. That's a smooth move, though. It worked.
Yes, it works.
So now you have 2 beautiful kids and you got a wife. So that's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, obviously we got a little piece of it there, but as far as, where did you grow up? What was family life like, and along those lines?
I was very fortunate. I say fortunate and I say blessed, but I never met my father. My mother had me when she was in nursing school, when she was at in Denver, at nursing school. And when my grandfather found out that she had me, he asked that she move me back to San Diego, and La Jolla specifically, which is a very affluent, beautiful community in San Diego. He was an immigrant. He was born in 1919 in a Bulgarian village, destined to be a farm boy. And it was only because of his love of curiosity, because his grandfather and one of the missionaries there taught the village how to read. Yeah. That allowed him to become a medical doctor during World War II. It allowed him to immigrate and to give our family all kinds of privileges. But I was raised by my grandfather. He essentially was my father. My grandmother was a Japanese woman. They never married. She wasn't my blood. But I was raised by a Bulgarian grandfather, a Japanese grandmother. And that was kind of my privileged upbringing, raised in privilege by immigrants. And, being in La Jolla, going to private school, I was afforded to see all kinds of families that had a lot of money, that had a lot of success. I also got to see that some of that success didn't necessarily equate to happiness in families. But nevertheless, it was just an incredible opportunity to meet friends that I still have today, that are doing some incredible things in their industries, in their space. And that was my introduction. My grandfather wanted me to be an attorney. He wanted me to be a medical doctor, actually. And I took the LSAT, told him I was going to study law because I liked negotiating and I liked the essence of law, and just did terrible on the LSATs. It's not that I was a bad student. I just tested poorly. I got rejected by all 3 law schools in San Diego. And really was a tough point it was more difficult to tell him that I didn't get in than it was to actually get the rejection letters. Right. I still have the rejection letters framed on my desk right on the other side of this room over there. Because for me, I grew up playing sports. The people that I idolized were the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the Joe Montana's, all the best athletes, the Muhammad Ali's, you name it. I was always inspired by people that worked hard every single day. It was what my grandfather, I watched him do. Even after he retired as a medical doctor, I watched him continue to read books, to start his real estate career, become a developer. No matter what, he was always trying to read and become better, become a better person, become a better businessman. And those are things that I always gravitated to. But for me, it was kind of just opportunity. Opportunity led me into hospitality. It led me to a property in San Diego that was an underserved community. There was a liquor license at an existing location that my grandfather used to manage and run. And, I went to one of my closest friends from college, Corey Robinson, and said, hey, why don't we open up a sports bar, family-friendly sports bar in a part of San Diego that's underserved? It was 2008 at the height of the economic recession. Not a great time to be opening any business, let alone a high-risk business like a restaurant.
Yeah.
But we went all in. We said, let's do it. And despite everybody telling us that, location, definitely don't open in that location, we did. And we struggled. We struggled a lot. But because we struggled, we were forced to use the internet in a way that, had we been successful in another location, I don't think we would have given as much respect to the internet and the smartphone as we do now. It's essentially 12 years running a barbecue business, a hospitality business, and now a media business in one of the most difficult locations in San Diego, growing from 18 employees doing 300,000 in sales to 64 employees doing 3.3 million in sales. It's given us the confidence and the belief in our digital hospitality thesis. And that's, every business needs to be digital and every business needs to be in the hospitality business. So much has changed in the world since 2007, when the first smartphone came out, when the first iPhone came out, excuse me. So June 29th, 2007 is the day that the first iPhone came out. I know that because my son's born on June 29th, 2017. And when I was in the hospital, I was looking at what happened significant in history. And I never thought of, well, that was significant when the iPhone came out. Well, it was significant. It was significant on so many different levels because, Internet 1.0 was built and so many incredible businesses were built, but all the apps on top of that, the mobile first world that we live in, the Amazon Primes, the DoorDash, all this stuff that we take for granted now, it all happened because of the smartphone. We can make a 4K video on our iPhone, on our Android. We can publish that to the internet. I can talk to my wife who's in Bulgaria in a village because she has an internet connection for free. My grandfather used to write a letter to his sister in Bulgaria. It would take 6 months to get that letter there.
Wow.
Literally have HD communication to the village with my wife for free. That's the world that we live in. If you have compelling content, you can reach anyone that has internet access all over the globe.
And that's powerful. We always talk about how social media can be a good or a bad thing. Sometimes it rides a line of how you utilize this super powerful tool. And it seems like you took what some people thought was not a good situation, and you had an idea and you had a dream of this company that you wanted to build. And then it turned into something even more because of using that resource.
Yeah. Part of it is demystifying the internet. I ended up not going to law school. I ended up graduating. I had graduated with a degree in sociology. I started in business. I thought that's what I wanted to study. I wasn't compelled by any of the business class, by any of the professors. But sociology, studying people, why we do what we do, that was interesting to me. So I studied that. I never thought that I would be talking about marketing or digital or, how apps work or how websites work. And I still don't know those things, but I know them more than most people do because I'm willing to ask questions. I'm willing to be stupid. I'm willing to ask people that I respect, and they tell me things that have really helped me and empowered me. Adam Harris, he's one of the kids I grew up with in La Jolla, runs Cloudbeds, which is the number one SaaS product for hospitalities, essentially a cloud-based system for hotels to literally do everything, provide hospitality, do all their bookings, manage, basically run their business. And he's going to be one of the most successful people I know. But before he started that company, he was helping restaurants, specifically in San Diego, with their websites. And I'll never forget him and his brother taking our existing website, where I had to email our webmaster and ask him, hey, we have an upcoming fight night. Can you change it so it says Pacquiao versus Mayweather, and that the cover is $5 and it's 21 and up? And it would take 3 days to get a response. And then he would update the site, and then something wouldn't be the way that I wanted it. And then all that time, while people are searching, where can I go watch this boxing match, we're losing search results. It's like, that was my first introduction to SEO. Like, what is search engine optimization?
Mm.
And Adam and his brother, they took me and they said, listen, we're going to host your site, but we're going to put you on a WordPress platform, and we're going to teach you that everything you need to know, you already know it. Like, either the site is so easy that you can figure it out for yourself, or the site sucks and they're going to go out of business. And like, I'll never forget that, because that's the way I approach every platform on social. That's how I approach every app that we use in the restaurant. Like, either it works and it does what it's intended to do and it integrates with other technology, or it sucks. We're not going to pay for something that sucks, and we're not going to pay something that's a bad back-end experience or a bad front-end experience for the user. I mean, that's literally demystified the internet for us to go, okay, well, we can do Twitter. Like, yeah, we send out so many tweets that nobody gave a shit about, but now we actually have built a community, and when we need something or when something's relevant, we ask for help. Community responds. We do the same on Facebook. We do the same on Instagram. We do the same on LinkedIn. And we build, connections with people that care about the stuff that we care about.
Yeah. And the reach is incredible for anyone that has internet and has an idea or a business. Like, you have your first tool right there in front of you. There is no excuses to why you can't start putting in action to make those things happen. And it sounds like what you've done is that exactly. You've taken all of these platforms and all of these basically free tools to optimize your business, and you've utilized them to the best of your ability. I found it interesting that you said with your sociology degree, and then now being in this marketing space, especially with digital marketing, and even just running a business in general and dealing with consumers on a constant basis, what correlation or things that you learned in sociology did you see come over and help you in that marketing space? Because obviously understanding people is going to understand what catches their eye and brings them to you, and so on.
Yeah, that's a great question, because just understanding how people behave, and understanding my own behavior, and that's part of psychology. I didn't study psychology, but I'm continuing to read books about it and trying to understand mindset. This is a podcast about mindset. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, I've gotten so much incredible information from the podcast that I listen to. I'm so grateful that you're having me on to talk. I'm grateful whoever's listening to this. If you're driving in the car, that means you're curious. That means you're just like my grandfather. We all have the same DNA. Man, woman, doesn't matter the race, doesn't matter what religion you believe, doesn't matter what business you're in. Like, you care about being better. That's the ultimate thing. Like, if you care about being better, you're going to put yourself in a position to find compelling content that's going to either continue to help you to improve, or it's going to take you the other way. You said there's compelling content on the internet, and then there's people that complain about social media. Listen, there's people in real life that suck too.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to go find people that are complaining about other people. They're complaining that, life is happening to them instead of for them. And you need to surround yourself with people that are positive, people that are doing things, that are chasing ideas, that are, even if they're crazy ideas, they're doing something that makes them excited to wake up every single day, compelled to go to work. Forget the fact that they're even working, because they're doing something that's actually moving the needle, whether it's moving the needle on such the smallest point. And I'm not talking about, posting something and having thousands of people respond. I'm talking about just taking the act of posting, taking the act of turning the cell phone on and going live on Facebook Live and saying, hi, I'm Shawn. Today's Friday. It's 9/11. This is where I was at 9/11. Or today's Friday. I've always wanted to go live on Facebook. I've never done it before. I'm going to try my best to put out more content every single day. This is my business. This is what I do. If there's any way I can be of service, please reach out, and then just post it and see what happens. But then do it again the next day, and then do it on Instagram, and then do it on Facebook. Like, as you do these things, you start to understand that it's just storytelling. Like, all we're doing is learning how to tell stories about the things that we love, about the things that we're passionate about. And once you start doing that, you realize how much opportunity there is. It's just unbelievable. How many different people own a barbecue business? How many people own a restaurant? How many people own a bar on this globe? That if I can say something on a podcast, if I can say something on a YouTube video, if I can say something on an Instagram post or a LinkedIn post that's revealing literally just the struggles that we're having, the successes that we're having, and it helps them, how powerful is that? I mean, we're in Spring Valley, California. Everyone already laughed at me because we're in Spring Valley. They keep laughing at me when I say I'm a barbecue media company. I don't care. I don't give a shit how they think. I
Yeah.
know that it's given me opportunity to do things that, so many people would never be able to do.
Right. And that's where I think so many people fall short. And that's where we all have this human nature of fear, living out of fear-based. And that's a way that you can't live. So many people have all these ideas and thoughts and things. Like, what if you had all of these ideas? You listen to the people that said, don't put this barbecue company here. Or you listen to the people that said, you can't merge this with media. How are you going to merge barbecue with media? Like, if you never said, screw you, I'm doing this, but you took a step out into the deep and you took a chance. And that's where so many people just don't even take the chance. And then those dreams slowly die because you're overcome with fear. And obviously that's no way to live life.
Absolutely. You said you're in Texas? You're from Texas.
I'm in Arkansas now, but I actually grew up in Texas.
Okay. So when somebody says they're from San Diego and they cook craft barbecue, what's your first response?
Well, as a Texas boy,
Like if you're just listening, he's smiling and laughing his ass off.
Say,
he's not the only one.
It's like, oh, what is?
And if you're from Memphis, you probably feel the same way. And if you're from Kansas City, you probably feel the same way. And you probably have an opinion about both of those types of barbecue.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like the path least taken, the most difficult path. How can we learn how to do something that's difficult, that's unique? Cooking craft barbecue, that's not my gift. But I found Gene Goycochea, who is the expert. He is the technician. He is the craftsman. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get barbecue in a digital way, in a way that's hospitable to more people. That's just been an evolution. I didn't have that plan when we first started. When we first opened the restaurant, there was no barbecue. Mm-hmm. We were California Comfort Restaurant and Sports Bar. As we started marketing, we realized that's way too long. That's ridiculous. Like, we're cutting that name up. And then we've evolved, and you continue to evolve. But back to what you said is, had I listened to the people closest in my life, or even worse, the people that were around me saying that that's a bad idea, then I never would have been right here, sitting here on this podcast, sharing, these ideas with you in the hopes that it helps somebody go, hey, well, I've always wanted to pursue that. Like, all that matters is that you go every day you wake up, that you do something that you care about, right?
Right.
If you do something that you care about, don't you want to celebrate that? Like, the closest people around you, if they truly care about you, there's a difference about when you care about something or when you don't care. Yeah. Once you care, it changes everything. It's the content you listen to. It's the shows that you watch. It's the people you talk to. It's getting out of your own fear. Well, what happens if they reject me? I admire this person. I started following them on YouTube, and then I sent them an email and they didn't email me back. Well, yeah, they have 20 million followers. Like, email them again. Send them a direct message, send them a tweet, keep following them, write them a letter. Like, there's so many different ways to get access to people and to do the things that you want to do, or build a business. And then in 5 years, you'll be at a different place and you'll look at that person. Maybe that's not the person that you admire as much as you did before.
Right. And that's the thing. And it's just a crazy world that we live in now with the opportunity. There is no shortage of opportunity in this world. And I know
it's the greatest time to be alive ever. It's literally all the tools have been created for us. Like, for whatever you care about, all the tools are created and the answer is right in your pocket. You're probably holding it. It's probably, if you're driving, it's probably right next to you. It's right next to you when you go to sleep. It's right next to you all throughout the day. You use it for business. You don't use it for business. You pretend it's not for business. Like, the amount of different conversations we have about when we should be on social media, when we shouldn't be on social media, what we should be doing, what email should be used for, what it shouldn't be used for. It's all digital communication. It's all digital storytelling. Yeah. If the emails suck, make them better. It's that simple. If the Facebook posts don't get any engagements, make them better, change them, do something different.
Right. In your experience of that, when we're speaking of engagements or, engaging with a consumer, engaging with people on social media, has there been any things that you have tried throughout your process, something that hit that you were like, man, this is a good switch, or maybe something on the opposite end, tried this and it didn't really work and we made an adjustment? Or what's been some things that you've seen a lot of success with in terms of digital media marketing when it comes to Instagram, or when it comes to whatever aspect that someone is trying to attack that in?
So, I mean, I think, obviously consuming content from people that I respect and admire and they're sitting in the places that I want to be. That's number one. So people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who's essentially Professor V for me. I've never met him. I've exchanged emails. I've exchanged tweets with him, DMs. David Meltzer, he's actually my business coach. Tim Ferriss, consume his content, read his books. Following people like that, Ariana Huffington, those kind of content, that's inspirational content, right? But when I'm talking about making my own content or talking to another business or talking to another brand or another influencer about content, it always just breaks down to four things. And that's video, audio, written word, and photos, images. It's literally broken down into the tabs that they have on Chrome. How are you going to appear in search in all these different things? That's what the internet is.
Right.
So it's like people get way too confused and overwhelmed with, well, what do I post on TikTok as opposed to LinkedIn? Well, yes, those are two totally different platforms. But ultimately, you need to figure out, well, what is your mission? What are you talking about? Like, how are you helping somebody with your product or your service if you're in business? Or if you're trying to raise money, what is the cause? Why should we spend money with you as opposed to somewhere else? That all comes down to your hook point. What is it that you care about, and why should anyone else care? Why should somebody, whatever your call to action, why should they take that call to action? And even more than that, why should they share it? Because once you create compelling content that's shareable, then the internet gets really exciting, because then you're reaching all different types of communities within that internet. Because it's literally doing the advertising for you. It's word of mouth on steroids.
Right. Yeah. And you seem like someone to me who's a straight shooter. And I feel like oftentimes when you're talking about a social media platform versus a business that someone's trying to run, I think some people think that there's blurred lines within a personal, story or something that's compelling versus a business. And sometimes you want to keep personal life and business life separated. Right. And I see from what you're saying now, and I see the power in that when people do. And Gary is a good representation of that, of being vulnerable and tying in, giving people worth with his business and his real story, because people want real.
Absolutely. And Gary's the first person to tell you, I mean, if anyone listening that knows who Gary Vee is, if you don't know, you need to listen to him. You need to follow his content. But in his content, he'll tell you he doesn't post anything personal about his wife, about his kids. Like, he makes that conscious decision to do that. And he still has unbelievable content. He makes that decision. For some people, it's not for them. For me, I'm the complete opposite. I feel compelled, even before the internet, to share things with my friends and my family, about my life. That's just my nature. I felt compelled that it was important that I told the story of who I was as a Charger fan, as a sports bar owner. And it wasn't just by putting a jersey on the wall. It was because I was a season ticket holder, because I was inviting everyone from our bar to our tailgate, inviting them to eat and drink before the game, taking pictures with them, meeting their family, sharing their stories. Like, all along the way, I've learned that the more that I lean into who I am, whether that's Shawn, the business owner, Shawn, the dad, Shawn, the friend, Shawn, the super fan of the Chargers, whatever that persona is, it's who I am. Like, I'm not going to hide that. And if it's Shawn the alcoholic, because I'm a sports bar owner who's an alcoholic that attends AA meetings in my own sports bar. And have I shared that on the internet? I have, because that's who I am. I've been sober for 8 years. Did I struggle with alcohol? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely struggled with alcohol.
Yeah.
8 years of sobriety, has it changed my life? Absolutely, it's changed my life.
And round of applause to you for that. That's an amazing achievement, honestly. And I was going to touch on that as well. I saw something earlier. You touched on gratitude. Like, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the people listening to this in their car right now. And I saw that you had a little gig on NBC where they featured you talking about where you're waking up at 4 a.m. every morning and going and taking a hike. And you're taking a hike and you're getting outside, you're being active, getting your blood flow. You're expressing gratitude for the day. And especially in today's time, it's so easy to say, woe is me. And it's so easy to say, this isn't going right for me. This isn't going right for me. Why do I have to wear a mask? Or this business isn't doing well, or that business. But expressing gratitude, and this is a practice for me that I've just started really getting into and trying to make it a habit. But tell me how it's affected your life. And not only that, but creating the habit of getting up early in the morning and getting active at an early time.
Yeah. Proactive lifestyle and being founded in gratitude is something that I'm fortunate that for whatever reason, I've never been resentful for my father because I had my grandfather, because I lived such a life of privilege. And I don't know what it was at a young age that made me know that I was in just an incredible situation, but I knew. Like, I knew the fact that my school was 100 yards from the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by multi-million-dollar homes, that like, this wasn't right. This isn't how the rest of the world lives. Maybe it was because my grandfather told me, about the villages that he was from, or my grandmother told me about how Japan was. Whatever that was, I've always just been a grateful person. It wasn't until literally this year where I actually made it a practice into my life that every single day I was going to wake up and have a sunrise gratitude walk, hike, or run. So something proactive for my body. It developed into what it is now, which is being up by 4 a.m., reading or writing. So for my mind, body, and spirit. So that time is protected time, mind, body, and spirit. Like that, it recalibrates me. My favorite football player is Phillip Rivers, who's no longer a Los Angeles Charger. He's part of the Colts, but his saying was "Nunc Copi," which is "Nunc Copi." Is now I begin in Latin. Now I begin, and it's a Stoic philosophy of essentially every single day. That's what we have, living in the present. So it's not that I don't have hope for the future. It's that if I don't live in the present today, then I'm going to miss all the incredible things that are happening right around me. I'm going to miss my son, not wanting to put his clothes on for school. Like, I can't just rush to the next thing. Oh, I've got a podcast. Oh, I've got, this business opportunity. I've got this meeting. It's like, no, I need to sit down with my son right now and talk to him about patience. Talk to him about the more that I explain to him what's going on, and the more that I recalibrate myself, the more that I can be in the moment and actually make an impact on his day and my day. Plus, then it doesn't make me get frustrated about, hey, let's go. Because I'm a person that's always on time. I'm not on time. I'm always early. I'm a tailgater. So I have tailgating in my blood, meaning you tell me to be there at 6 p.m., I'll be there an hour early, and I'll be getting prepared for what needs to happen at 6 p.m. If you arrive at 6:01, you're late. That's it. It's just how it is. But nonetheless, sunrise gratitude, the act of doing those things for mind, body, and spirit, but then documenting them on social, that's really was the change. Because before, it seemed like I don't want to brag that I'm working out. It's not, oh, it's about me. It actually has nothing to do with me. The act of me posting on Instagram stories that there was a sunrise and I took a photo, a selfie when I was running, it's actually been the most engagement that I've gotten on Instagram stories from other people who goes, oh, I'm so proud of you for doing that. Like, thank you for inspiring me to, finally start working out again, or, whatever that might be. It's been the most engaging thing because it's just a simple act of recognizing that the sun came up and being thankful.
Wow. And that's everything that you said. I find it funny, I reached out to you a little while ago and you got back with me this week, and it's like everything happens when it's supposed to happen. And it's so funny. It's not a coincidence that we're sitting here. I literally don't believe in coincidences, because what you just said there is a lot of the mission statement and the backbone behind Breathe and Air and behind my mission as far as my three pillars are body, mind, and spirit. And I think that when one of those is lacking, you're going to feel out of balance in your life. And I feel like we're always searching for a specific balance in life. I know for me, especially, that's something that I'm always looking for. Like, how can I find this balance of wanting to be an overachiever, having all these ambitions, having these dreams, wanting to push, go, but also be able to like be present, be thankful, be grateful, and being able to practice those and make them habits. And this month is Savage September for something that we did. It's an event that we did for this podcast, and 40 plus people have joined. And basically what it is, it's been amazing. And this was the first month that we did it, and it's just been incredible. But it's no drinking. It's, half your body weight in ounces in water, clean eating, reading, daily journals, gratitude. So literally what you just said there in that, goal setting, writing things down, and what you just said there, you literally touched almost every single one of them. So it's just like what I said, there's no coincidences in this world. Like when you put in action, things like this are attracted.
I mean, the hairs are standing up on my arms, and meaning I know that I'm exactly where I need to be. And those are just the subtle reminders that the universe tells us that you are where you're supposed to be. And when you slow down, for somebody that goes as fast as I do, that does as many things as I can, it's always yes, it's always more. How do I do more? Not how do I do less, but I can do more and enjoy in the moment those things, if that makes sense. Because by slowing down and understanding that, I can see the gifts that are all around me, and I can see that I'm actually doing the things that I should be doing. Because I've been in Spring Valley for 12 years operating one single restaurant. I have way bigger ambitions than having one single unit restaurant. But it wasn't until coronavirus has hit that this digital impact started getting recognized globally by restaurants, by small businesses, by mid-sized businesses, starting to understand, hey, maybe we need to start posting content. How do we post a video? How do we post something on Twitter? Like, how do we do all the things that I've had to struggle like hell to do? Along the way, I could have easily said, well, I want 10 restaurants, but that wasn't a profitable model. That wasn't something that was going to make an impact. What I'm doing now will make an impact, not just for the barbecue business, but for the media business. And hopefully to anybody that's reading or consuming or listening to the content that we're going to continue to put out, because all we're going to do is document successes and document failures.
Right.
We're not perfect. We're not expert. Anybody that says they're an expert, you're crazy. You're not an expert. The amount that Facebook has changed since I started posting in 2008 and claimed our page to what it looks like now. I could probably hire 3 people to work just on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Like, would that be a good use of resources? Probably not. But it's that complex now as opposed to what it was.
Right. I feel like it's an ever-changing thing too. As far as like the algorithm and the way things are seen and the way things are posted, using hashtags, doing those kind of things, obviously being consistent in your posting and being, relentless when it comes to that kind of stuff. But have you had any specific successes when it comes to distributing your content and things that maybe little tips or tricks for someone who's like, hey, I have this idea or I have this business, but I just don't know how to start, pushing my content or pushing my business or my brand online? Like how would someone start that process?
The best advice that I can give, and it's what Stover, my producer, produces the Digital Hospitality Podcast. We consult with small businesses. We consult with individual people that are working in marketing. We are now consulting with huge tech companies that it's kind of crazy to even step back and be like, I can't believe that, the CMO of this company, publicly traded company, is coming and asking a single unit barbecue restaurant person for, social media advice and marketing advice. But what we tell them is that people overcomplicate social media and they overcomplicate the content they need to create. We go back to the basics, and that's video, audio, written words, and photos. That's it. That's as simple as the internet is. And all it is storytelling. So once you break it down like that, and then you come up with a weekly content plan. So what are we going to talk about weekly? Is that going to be, does that mean you have to have a podcast? Not necessarily, but I would argue that if you're going to create an interview, if you're going to talk about a topic that's relevant to your business, if you start to think about your business or your spouse's business or somebody you love or the emails that you get, there's a lot of terrible emails that come out. There are a lot of terrible blogs. There are a lot of terrible marketing money that's being wasted.
Right.
We all know what's good when we see it. Sometimes it's entertaining. Sometimes it's educational. If you keep it in the entertaining and educational space and you do it for your niche, I don't care how small your niche is, and you do it on a weekly basis for your website first. So first you put it on your website and then you use it to use that content and redistribute it to different platforms like LinkedIn. It's different on LinkedIn than what you're going to post on Facebook, than what you're going to post on Twitter. But that's how you're going to start to learn what's working and what's not working. But then you're also going to have a schedule. And by having a schedule, it helps center you and it helps realize that it's not just off the cuff. Oh my God, it's, Monday and I don't have anything to post on Instagram, or it's Friday. I need to post something before the weekend and I don't have anything to post, or I don't know what to like. That gets rid of all of that. Do you still need to be engaged in the platforms and understand when somebody's sending you? Yes, you do. Yes, the answer is yes. But ultimately having a master plan of who you are and what you do and how are you going to say that mission, that's so important. And the crazy thing is people think that people aren't going to care. Like, there's a turf company right next to the restaurant. They've been growing unbelievably, but they're growing because they're doing the things that we do. They follow us on Instagram. They're asking us for advice. How do we make videos? How do we claim our Yelp page? How do we start doing that? If you don't ask for help, it's as easy. This is what we say everywhere. It's stay curious, get involved, ask for help. You have to be humble enough to ask for help. If you're not curious, you wouldn't even be in the space to begin with. But you also have to get involved, and getting involved it involves failure. So you're going to post and no one's going to care. I'll just tell you that now. Get it out of the way.
Right.
I post still to this day and people don't care. And guess what? I don't take it down. I just post something different next time.
Yep.
It's all learning.
Right. And you're not going to be able to learn without taking those risks and chances. It goes back to what we said, not living fear-based. I think sometimes we have these subconscious ideas and thoughts that are rooted in whatever kind of insecurities that we have, especially oftentimes when, we're talking about social media and what are people going to think of me? Like you said earlier, what if this doesn't work? Well, guess what? If it doesn't work, then you get to check one thing off the list and now you're one step closer to what will work. But I feel like you have to have that mindset and that mentality, that Mamba mentality, like you said,
Exactly right.
Mamba mentality, being relentless in your pursuit for greatness. And how I know this is probably something that sticks out to a lot of people, but as an owner of a sports bar and then a recovered alcoholic, and then bringing those two worlds together into one and being able to have AA meetings and that community and being able to be of service to people without getting anything in return. What has that done for your business and what has that done for you personally?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily done anything for my business. It's probably done something through me for my business, which is more of understanding humility, understanding that everything that all my fears of people, my staff judging me for being a failure, being somebody that can't control their alcohol, being somebody that's asking for help, somebody that's being vulnerable. I mean, just today, we're a day, whenever this podcast gets recorded, this week, Dak Prescott got humiliated on national television by a prominent sports journalist for revealing that he had depression because his brother committed suicide. And he's the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And Skip Bayless, the journalist, said, hey, you're the CEO of the company. You can't be vulnerable. Like, you need to basically not do that. I expect you to suck it up and go to work. Well, that's not the world that we live in. That's not the reality that I live in. Vulnerability is a strength. And the more that people are vulnerable and the more that they share their deepest, darkest fears and that's when you create compelling content. Because then I know you're not full of shit. Because we're all scared. I mean, I'm scared. I want to be a better dad every day. I want to be a better husband. I know that just because I'm a good dad doesn't make me a good husband. I know that my children, just because I read books about child development, how to, discipline and not discipline, I know that my kids, my daughter, my son, they're going to learn how a man treats a woman and that relationship based off of the things that I say to my wife. It's not whether I'm a good dad. It's just how are my wife and I interacting? Mm-hmm. Like when she asked me to do the dishes, when she asked me to put the phone down, like, how can I be better? I'm by no means perfect. Just before we left, I mean, we got into an argument over the dishes and laundry. Like, can I be better? Absolutely, I can be better.
Right.
But I'm not going to come on here and tell you I'm perfect, because I'm not. But I'm going to start to talk about doing the dishes or doing the laundry. And then now I'm actually having a conversation with other men that are having the same problem. And then maybe they say something that, their sponsor or somebody that they care about told them, or an insight into women that I hadn't thought about. And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, I really am an asshole. I need to go apologize to my wife. I thought I was in the right.
Right.
And really, she just didn't communicate what she really felt. And now if I do that and I proactively help her the way I proactively help myself every single morning doing my sunrise gratitude, if I do a wife gratitude when I come home and say, hey, babe, let me do the dishes, let me do this, you go to the garden, be with your trees, be with your plants, let me take the kids, maybe that's going to change my entire relationship at my house, which is going to change my relationship with how my kids see how a man treats a woman. It's that powerful.
Yeah, it is. And leading by example is the most powerful thing out of everything. Being able to experience things and having experience is the greatest teacher. And then, knowing, my dad used to say, you can learn from your mistakes, you can learn from other people's mistakes, right? And oftentimes we learn from our own mistakes, which is okay, because we all do that. But let's try and minimize those, right? We want to try and look outside of ourselves. And that's what I think you're saying. It's so easy to think inwardly and what can I get from this? What can I get from this person? What can I get from this job? What can I get from this or that? But it's more so when we look outward and we stop looking in so much that we find the true answers that we're looking for. We want a happy marriage. Okay. Well, doing the dishes without our wives having to ask, or, putting the laundry up without our wives having to ask, or, being grateful, saying, man, mom or wife, like, you mean so much to me. Like, I love you. Those little small details that we sometimes forget to do are the biggest game changer. And just like you said with social media, I think even when it comes to those kind of things in life, it's the simple little things that we forget to do on a consistent basis that make the biggest difference.
I mean, it's, it comes down to a matter of perception and a matter of what you're willing to try and not try. My kids, I have a playground theory, and, because I have small kids, we take them to the playground. They love going to the playground. And when you're small, what do you do first? You do whatever's the most comfortable thing on the playground, whatever's the least intimidating. And once you do that, you are happy because you did it. You slid down the slide.
Right.
The kids smiles. It's happy. I just learned how to walk. Now I'm going to walk to the stairs. Now I walk up the stairs. Now I'm going to slide down the slide. It takes the kid going to the monkey bars or to the next piece of equipment, which is different. It's harder to do. They have to develop a different skill. It's the same thing in life. It's the same thing in sports. It's the same thing with social media platforms. Like, we all want to do what's comfortable because that's where we see results. I like Facebook because, that's where my community is. And I don't like Twitter. Twitter's stupid. There's too much negativity on Twitter. Well, I would disagree. Go to that playground and start to use it. Start to ask questions of people that are doing Twitter correctly. Start to look for content about the content that you're producing or you care about. Find out who's doing a good job of it. Or if there isn't any, then start to make it. Start to build a community around whatever topic you care about. It's the same for LinkedIn. It's the same for all those different platforms. And then once you start playing on all these different playgrounds, the internet becomes less intimidating. And then you start to realize, well, I can create content easily by talking about a topic, repurposing it for a podcast, publishing it as a YouTube video, and creating a blog post out of it. All of a sudden, you're a media company. It's not all of a sudden, it's low and slow and 12 years later, but nonetheless, it puts you in a position day after day, time after time, playground after playground.
Right. And I think companies and business people, entrepreneurs alike, are all seeing that at a large scale right now with the situation that we're in as an economy, as a, the United States of America, as the world. This footprint that we have as having a digital presence is so much more powerful than people realize. But how has that changed? How has having that footprint from the past, because you've been doing this. This isn't something that's new, like, oh, COVID hit, I need to start doing this. No, you have had that footprint. You have had that work ethic, and you have had the content out. So how has that helped your business now when this is a time that's so focused on, I mean, look at Amazon. It's, the giant, their stock has just gone through the roof exponentially during this time because it's such a base that they already have with this online presence. So how is having that online presence and having had it affected and helped, keep you stable during this time?
Well, I mean, I would be lying to say it hasn't given us an advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally removed the fear that I felt on March 17th when I told 29 employees that they no longer had work.
Yep.
We had to close down our full service restaurant and sports bar because of the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
I had to inform people that our family that they didn't have a job anymore.
Right.
I had to create a video asking for help from our community to buy gift cards to come and buy takeout. Had we not built the communities on each of those different platforms, we wouldn't have gotten the amount of engagement and response that we did get. But I would argue that once a business owner or anybody decides to use that smartphone to their advantage, whether they had a footprint or not, that's where all the magic happens. Because once you realize that media companies, television stations, radio stations, newspapers, digital magazines, every single day, they need content. They need compelling stories. You can be that compelling story. You literally can be that compelling story. Once we got tired of people ignoring us in Spring Valley, local food writers, I started doing more research of how do we get press? How do we figure out, how to get people to care about what we're doing? And over the next 7-8 years, we started following different media personalities on Twitter that were in the food space, that were in the barbecue space. We started, literally doing anything and everything we could to continue to help our community, to work outside of our restaurants, to make it not just about our restaurant and what we're doing, but celebrate all the other things that are happening. When we're putting on an event, it's not just about us being a part of that event. Who else was at the event? Can we promote their business? Because it's not just about our business. Mm-hmm. If we're going to Taste of San Diego and there's 30 restaurants there, we're going to tag all the restaurants that are there and go try their food, talk to them, meet them. Once you go there, once you're at ground zero, you can really find out where you can help. And part of our philosophy has always been to be at ground zero. And then now that we're there, we document. We document.
Yeah. Being of service, finding what people need and where people gravitate towards, I feel like is a super important thing that oftentimes in business is missed because we're so focused sometimes on the actual product, which obviously has to be a product that the consumer wants. But at the same time, it's like, how can I give value to these people? How can I give value to their lives? Whether that's, through my social media content, through, the food and the camaraderie and the community that we're creating within this restaurant or whatever it may be. It's more so thinking about what the consumer wants, not what you want as an individual. And
I think it's a great question. Story Brand, number one, is the book that I would recommend by Donald Miller because he addresses it directly. And that's the problem that we have as entrepreneurs, as business owners, is that exactly that. We want our hero. We want our product or our service to be the hero.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to be about us. Well, hey, I've got such great barbecue. Like, why aren't people talking about me? Well, it's actually not about me. It's about the customer. How does my barbecue help their lives? Well, the problem with barbecue is that it takes time and it takes expertise.
Yeah.
We solve that problem because you can order barbecue on your phone anytime. You can pre-order barbecue. You don't have to go wait in line. You don't have to worry about selling out. Now we're going to give you barbecue where you are. I'm not going to make you come wait 2 hours in line on an NFL Sunday to maybe get brisket, but maybe not.
Yeah.
No, if you are smart enough to pre-order through our mobile first site, it's going to guarantee you brisket for you and all your friends, so that once kickoff starts, you're ready to go. And then when they come over, they're like, well, what happened? How are you always ready? The place that I go to, they're never ready, or they were out. Guess what? They're going to ask you, where did you get the barbecue?
Right.
Now we've become the hero, but you're the hero because you got it. It's just us being the guide. And that's literally story brand. I mean, that's why we recommend the book. We can't stop recommending the book because it's so powerful. Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Write that down. Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Yeah.
So speaking of NFL Sunday, and you're a Chargers fan, and I just did a fantasy draft not too long ago, and I got my boy Austin Eckler coming back. I had him last year. He killed it.
Yep.
I like him this year still with Tyrod back there. I mean, I think that makes him even more of a threat because obviously, you know, he's a running threat, so you got to respect that as well. I think it helps the run game.
I'm very excited to see the plan that Anthony Lynn has for Tyrod Taylor and for Austin Eckler. I think it's going to be very exciting to see a mobile quarterback. Like I said, Philip Rivers, my favorite NFL athlete, but nonetheless, he couldn't move. He'll be the first one to tell you he couldn't move. That doesn't mean that we don't wish him success in Indy, because we want him to be successful. He's just an incredible man, incredible human. But nonetheless, I think the Chargers are going to be exciting. As part of, I'm an eternal optimist, and part of our curse in San Diego is that whenever anything goes good, it usually goes wrong. So I don't want to put that curse on our Padres. But nonetheless, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's exciting. It's the things, you know, sports are, you know, like I said earlier, sports are something that I learned from some of the coaches more than I learned from some professors, you know, about life, about sportsmanship, about how to be a man, how to be on time, how to work harder than anybody else, how to have Mamba mentality. You know, it's always about being better. You want to surround yourself by people that inspire you to be better. If you're around people that are bitching and complaining, like, you need to get new friends. And that's hard to hear for some people, you know?
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing is, though, when you start making those switches, whether that's a mentality switch, whether it's the people that you hang out with, whether it's, you know, putting good content in instead of junk, empty content in, those kind of things, when you start making those life switches, watch and see the things that start happening in your life and the things that you start attracting in your life. It's just crazy. This is a perfect instance. Me and you sitting here talking about these. I had a call today with a guy that I'd reached out to a long time ago, and never heard back. And, you know, that happens all the time when you're shooting out a bunch of messages to everybody. Mm-hmm. But he randomly called me back this morning, starts talking about how he's rebranding his marketing. He had a marketing firm, all this success that he's had, you know, making all the money, doing all these things, but wasn't happy, wasn't fulfilled, and is rebranding into, you know, a mindset type of service. How can I help you? How can I help your mindset? How can I help in this way? And I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, this is the things that you really start attracting into your life when you set your mentality and you set your mindset towards that kind of thinking. And the gratitude as well. I mean, it's just crazy how it happens. It really is.
Have you read The Alchemist?
The Optimist? I haven't.
No, The Alchemist.
Alchemist? Okay. Yeah. There's another.
The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's by far my favorite book.
Okay.
It's been translated into like 120 different languages. But it's about a Spanish sheep herder that goes on a journey.
Yeah.
And he looks for signs in the universe, and he goes on this absolutely incredible journey to find buried treasure. And I'll let you read the book, and you can tell me how you feel about it. But it's literally why it's why I believe we're having this conversation. It's why I believe you ended up in my inbox. It's the universe. It's the universe once you're fulfilling your passion, you're living a purposeful life, you'd be just amazed at the incredible things that start to happen. It's super exciting. I mean, I couldn't be more excited for where we are. And that's during coronavirus. We're opening up more restaurants during coronavirus than we have ever as a company. I'm being featured in restaurant specific magazines, full feature articles about our digital hospitality thesis. I'm talking to, the Yelp entire company about how we use Yelp and why we use Yelp. We're bringing in different technology partners, and their marketing teams are asking, how are we doing what we're doing? I mean, I couldn't be more excited to come. I call it work happens 24/7. I mean, work's happening when I'm sleeping. Yeah. And it's not work, it's play for me.
Right.
Literally I'm at play.
Yep. And that's when, you found your passion in something that you're supposed to be doing, something that you're supposed to be fulfilling. And that was I had a moment similar to this beginning of this year. I'm thinking like, what are my goals? Like, what are, my resolutions or whatever that may be. But the biggest thing was stop talking, start doing. And it was like, I have these things, but where's the action behind it? Where's these, and just, we're both sitting here amazed at what's going on, but it really is a thing whenever you put that energy and you put that effort and you have the Mamba mentality and you don't quit and you aren't fear-based, those things and those doors that you never thought would open will slowly start to open. And this is going on week, I guess, goodness, probably like 30, 31, 32. And so there's been people too that just all over the United States being able to see the reach, even with the people that are listening across seas.
Global. It's global.
It's insane. It really is. And it's a blessing to be able to do it, and surreal having conversations like this, because you know that you're in the right spot at the right time and that it's something that you are supposed to be doing. And for anyone out there that's listening where you're like, man, what if I haven't found this yet? What if I haven't found this yet? I would say to center yourself first. Focus on, it's okay to be selfish at a point. Focus on yourself, especially when you're, first graduating, you're coming out, you're trying to find your own, and people will all have different journeys, but be able to look yourself in the mirror, be honest with yourself. Just like we talked about the vulnerability and being able to ask for help, surrounding yourself with good people. Practicing meditation, being present, quieting your mind, those kind of things. If you make them habits, the world will just start falling into place for you. And it's a common theme with the people that we have on this show. It really is.
It's super exciting. And when I think back to the most impactful big decisions I made, I know there was resistance along the way. And, like I said, it's the people that are closest to you that love you the most. Like, if you're truly making a decision that's different, that's, doesn't make any sense, they're still going to support you. Like, if they truly care about you, they'll still support you. But if they talk shit and they tell you don't do it, or you shouldn't do it, or I thought we were boys, or I thought we had this thing, why are you moving? Or why are you going to, take a job that's not going to pay you any money? Like, because I'm inspired. Like, if I'm inspired, I need to go as close to the sun as possible. Yeah. Like, if you're inspired because you need to go to the pyramids, go to the pyramids. Like, if you need to go to the Great Wall of China, go to the Great Wall of China. Like, stop thinking about it and make it happen. People in life make excuses all the time. And like I said, I'm so grateful that my grandfather raised me, because he was a farm boy. Like, I've been to his village. His village is the same today as it was when he grew up. There's cobblestone roads. It's like, it's untouched by time. But what I do know is that now, if that village has internet, a kid that's there can get a Harvard education, better than a Harvard education, because of the internet, because of podcasts, because of YouTube, because of blogs, because of all this incredible information. And that's an exciting thing. It's a super exciting thing, because it empowers you to have endless opportunity.
Right. And it is endless opportunity. There's no shortage of success. And you have to believe that in this world, there is no shortage of success. And oftentimes I think we get enamored with consuming and thinking, oh, this person has more than me, or this person's married at this age, or this person has kids, or this person's business is doing better than mine, or why am I not there? Why? You got to trace it back. You got to pull it back. Like, comparison is the thief of joy. And you can't let yourself get to that place, because everyone's journey is different and unique. And that's why I say welcome to the journey on this show so much, because I wanted it to be where, hey, this isn't me saying I know everything about marketing, about business, about meditation, or reading books, or working out, or whatever it may be that we talk about on the show. It's like, this is me joining the journey with you. Welcome to the journey. Like, this is something that we all walk on together. And if you're listening right now, that means that you are committed to making your life better. You are committed to trying to be better, consuming positive things, growing a business, being a good father, those kind of things. So it is really about taking that first step and not caring to an extent about what people say.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're all connected. We're all connected on this globe to a universal language, to a frequency that all of us know and understand. And you know it because it's a feeling. When you feel it, when you feel inspired, it's a different feeling than when you're bored. When you're bored because you're not inspired. But when you are inspired, when you're doing something that is literally moving the hairs on your neck and on your arms, you're doing the right thing. And it might be scary as all hell, but if you keep doing it every single day and focusing on it and keep trying to find more information about it and asking more questions, then all of a sudden you're going to find all this incredible opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued on the Cali BBQ. I need answers.
Cali BBQ.media or the Cali BBQ?
I'm talking the food, the brisket, especially the brisket, because brisket's my favorite. I love brisket. That's one of my favorite things to eat, hands down.
So yeah, we slow smoke our meats St. Louis style. So Kansas City style barbecue. We have a little bit of a Cali twist to it. We do tri-tip, which is a California meat, but we have Old Hickory pits, which come from Cape Girardeau. We get the highest quality meats. Gene Goycochea, he's been in the professional Kansas City Barbecue Society competition game, competing, winning national championships, but also organizing events. And part of the greatest thing about barbecue is about family, barbecue is about community, and barbecue is about charity.
Yeah.
When you're breaking bread over a fire or you're sharing meat, I mean, it's something we've done well before we were here.
Right.
This is something it's primal in us. And every time that we've gone to the barbecue heavyweights, the greatest personalities in barbecue, whether they're online or offline, YouTube celebrities or people that have written cookbooks or been on pit masters, we've gone humbly and we've gone to ask them for help, and they didn't laugh us out of the room. They were inspired that we were curious enough to ask for help, and they gave us advice to what worked for them. And we told them what we were trying to do, to put on an amateur barbecue event to raise money for local youth sports. And then 17th Street, which is Mike Mills and Amy Mills, they have this legendary barbecue. They have done the same thing in their village for the last 20 years. We look to them for inspiration because those things are hard to do. It's hard enough to run a restaurant, let alone to put on a community festival outside of, right in front of your restaurant. We ask them questions. Like, literally being humble enough to ask for help has been definitely one of the keys to success.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's like, oh, we're selfish. Like, oh, my barbecue is the best. I got the best recipe. The fact that you're going out and searching wisdom from those people and constantly searching wisdom in all aspects of life, I mean, that's why you're successful. And then
it only reemphasizes how easy it is to do now. Because of that smartphone, the access that we have to the greatest minds and the greatest thoughts on earth, it's never been easier. That doesn't mean that I can go and get Bill Gates on my podcast, but that certainly means that there's an avenue that wasn't there before if I want Bill Gates on the podcast.
That's true. And that's a great way to look at it, because I mean, even before the smartphone has not even been out that long. That's the crazy thing. Like, what's
12 years, 13 years.
13 years.
13 years.
Thir-
It's a teenager.
So crazy.
And all of these businesses that have never used the internet, that have never used hardware, that have never used software, they're all competing for space, for industries, for minds, for leaders. You can be the leader in your business, in your industry, if you start to use these things. If you start to use these things, guess what? Not everything works. And I have no problem telling the CEO of a publicly traded company that, hey, this product sucks. You need to fix it. Or this doesn't make sense. Like, we're a single unit restaurant, but just because we're a single unit restaurant, I know that because of the podcast and because of the media content we create, I can have a voice on behalf of every single unit restaurant. And that's powerful as hell to me. And the more that I use it, it becomes even more powerful. So when people tell me the positive or the negative things that have happened in their restaurant with whatever tech partners they have, they actually can get feedback. And the best companies, they'll use that feedback like Yelp does, and they'll put me in touch with their engineers, and the engineers will improve their product, and it will actually make their product better, which will help their bottom line, which will help their shareholders, and then help another restaurant get more customers. It's literally unbelievable what can happen right now.
Yep. And that's that outward based approach to business. By giving you value, they're giving, a bunch of other people value, then they value, and then it's just a chain. It's just a free flowing domino effect whenever you look outwardly and you're not so focused on me.
Yeah.
It's wild how it happens. I love to ask this question, and it's something that I am always searching for the answer for. And I think that as humans, we continue to evolve and change, and our minds continue to change with what we experience and what we consume. So this is always an ever-changing question, but what is your definition of success?
Definition of success. It's probably agape. Agape is a Greek word for unconditional love. It's a verb. When I love something, that's success for me, because success is me playing.
Yeah.
Viewing work as play. And I think the problem with success is that we always use a monetary definition for success.
Right.
Cars, houses, followers, bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, a bunch of stuff that once we leave this earth won't matter one bit. But the lessons that I teach my son and my daughter, the impact that I have on my community, if I can inspire a different business owner on the other side of the earth to become the barbershop media company of Manila, and he teaches all the other barbershops how to have a voice, and they can do all this incredible stuff on behalf of people that cut hair, and then he can teach a different country of people how to do it. That's pretty powerful.
Absolutely. And I agree. Love is something that, I mean, especially now, even more than ever, we always need love. And it's a word that I feel like is almost not used. It's not used as much as it should. It should be, I think especially sometimes with men, it goes back to the vulnerability thing, saying I love you, bringing yourself down to a level where you may feel uncomfortable at times, but the power in that, and not just the power in love and loving your neighbor, loving your community and the people around you, but being able to, shed your ego, which is tough, especially for men sometimes. I mean, everyone deals with it, but I think, masculinity, there's so many masks that we can wear as men, I think. And being able to shed those is a freeing thing. And I've worn a lot of them, and I still do sometimes. I mean, it's an ever going thing that you try to, be better with, but it's a freeing thing whenever you can let go of those things, and you feel the weight lifted when you do, and you actually are your authentic self, and you actually are who you were meant to be. And you're not hiding behind any other of the curtains that this world presents to us so often.
Yeah. I mean, when you're present and you listen and you actively listen, and you don't just think about what am I going to say next, you can have a conversation with a coworker, with a friend, with a spouse, with a family member, and you can ask a different question that leads to a different answer, that leads to deeper understanding, that leads to deeper meaning. And really, when you start doing that, you start to realize, well, I never talked to my grandfather or asked him about this part of his life. And you ask that question. I mean, one of the most powerful things that happened to me was my grandfather at the end of his life, somebody that lived just this incredible life as a medical doctor, becoming studying German so that he could study medicine during World War II, having to move cities because the Nazis were recruiting the international students, and all he wanted to do was help people, to becoming a developer, to continuing to live an incredible life. Like, he wanted to share that story with the other village, with his family and friends in Bulgaria. And we learned how to write a book, how to self-publish a book. But
Wow.
by doing that, we also learned that in order to create a story, you have to ask questions. You have to ask questions in a way that develops character. You know, how I think of how I've lived my life is different than when somebody interviews me about something that's happened in my life. And maybe it's that one detail in the story that changes the story, that actually impacts somebody or multiple people.
Mm.
So it's by asking those questions where we learn the most about our parents, about our grandparents. And maybe we go, well, I always just dismissed what they said. You know, for me, it's like, when my son was born, I looked at him and I was like, how can somebody on this earth know that they have a son and not want to be in their lives? And that was at the first point that I ever wanted to find out where my dad was. And I wanted answers to questions that I'd never asked before.
Yeah.
And I went to my mom and I asked her questions like I was an attorney, like she was on the stand. I was deposing her. I was asking her as if I was a reporter, not just as a son going, oh, you know, your dad was a swimmer and, you know, he was such a great man and he was born. And then he was, you know, I came back to San Diego and, you know, he finished college and, you know, we just lost touch. I'm like, well, that's the story I've known my whole life. Well, where was he? Was he in the hospital when I was born? Like, no, he wasn't. Well, you know, now I'm having an uncomfortable conversation with my mom,
Right.
like a very uncomfortable one. But it leads me to get information that helps me actually find out where my dad is and send a digital communication. I sent an email to him that was opened by his now wife, and she sent me an email back basically saying, hey, thanks for reaching out. You know, it's great that you're, you know, you have a great life and that, you know, you have a son, but we're private people and we don't want to have anything to do with you.
Mm.
For me, that was great closure.
Yeah.
It was knowing what I already knew. If this man was going to be in my life, if he knew I was born, which I know he did, he would have been in my life. Nothing has changed that fact. Now, when my son asks, I can tell him I have an answer,
Right.
but I also have a better story. And when I share that story on Medium and on my podcast and with my friends, you can't believe how many people in my life that I know and I love that I didn't know that they didn't know their birth father.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't know that. They told me they were raised by their stepdad, or they told me, you know, hey, I've never met my dad. And these are people that I know and love.
Yep.
But until you be vulnerable, until you open yourself up to a conversation that is very difficult for me, very difficult for my son, very difficult for my mom, you realize, hey, I'm not the only person on earth that hasn't met their father,
Yeah.
that their father doesn't want them in their life. And I'm very blessed because my grandfather actually did want me in his life. And
Right.
look at all these incredible gifts I have because of it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's that moment of being uncomfortable, knowing that in that uncomfortable state that things are happening for the better, like things are growing. The moment you get comfortable is the moment you plateau. And it's being able to like love that aspect of being uncomfortable because you know that on the back end of it, there's dividends to be paid in whatever you're putting yourself out there for.
Correct. And it's it's the daily act. You know, whatever you're doing, once you make it a daily act, and whether that's a minute a day, whether that's one action a day, make it daily and hold yourself to it. I mean, the reason why sunrise gratitude works for me, the sun comes up every day if I'm lucky. If I'm lucky and I get to breathe, the sun's going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
If sun isn't your thing, sunset. Do something at sunset. Do something at sunrise and make it your ritual. Doesn't have to be mine. Make it yours, but protect it. When I was in therapy for the first time, when my brother was literally on charges for attempted murder, I went to go see a therapist for the first time. And at that time, she told me, Shawn, it sounds like you're an enabler. You are taking care of your grandfather, you're taking care of your grandmother, you're now taking care of your brother, you're taking care of your mom, you're taking care of your other brother, you're trying to run your business. You're burning the candle on both ends. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. I've never thought about it like that, but yeah. But I'm a man. I'm supposed to do that. I'm the eldest grandson. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's my lot in life. And she goes, well, let me ask you a question. When you're traveling with kids, or since you don't have kids and you've been on an airplane, if anyone's traveling with kids, what do they tell you to do when the oxygen masks comes down? They tell you to put it on yourself first before you put it on your kids. That is completely against everything we know as humans, completely
Right.
everything you know against as a man. You protect women and children. You take care of them first. But if you don't get their masks on, you're useless. You're dead. If you don't put the mask on yourself first, you're useless to everybody else. It's the most powerful analogy I've ever had.
Wow. That is extremely powerful, because then if you're not there to help in the first place,
you can't truly be selfless unless you're selfish.
That's powerful. And it's so true. And it's true in relationships too. You can't, whether it's friendships or whether it's, a spouse, if you don't truly love yourself and where you're at, you're not going to be able to love that person. You're not going to be able to love that person because you don't love yourself yet. So you don't know how to love. And then on top of that, you can't put all of your hopes of happiness or, fulfillment into another human being. They will let you down because we're all human and we're all imperfect, so that's why I feel like a lot of relationships fail these days, because they're like, this person is going to fulfill me. But no, that's not how it works. You have to find the fulfillment in yourself, and then you guys help each other level up. It's not like I'm putting all my eggs in one basket here, because it's so important to look at it that way. And it's weird to say, but selfishness in that aspect is extremely healthy and important.
It's incredible to think about it in that way, because we don't think about it like that.
We don't.
Being selfish it's viewed as negative, and it can be negative depending on what you're selfish about. But if you're selfish about mind, body, and spirit on a daily basis, to put yourself in a selfless position for what you care about and who you care about, it changes everything.
I think I'm going to leave y'all with that, because that just embodies everything that Breathe in Air podcast is about. That embodies everything that the Savage September crew that's fighting through the urges on Labor Day to drink. I know I was one of them, or whatever it may be, waking up in the morning, eating healthy foods and working out. Just being able to take that step for mind, body, and spirit. And that's what this podcast is about. That's what this specific month is about. But the whole thing is creating habits that are subconscious. So much of what we do is subconscious. And if you can create that habit in the first place for it to become subconscious, you can switch it. We had a guy that's he's studying to get his doctorate on neuroscience, and about the subconscious, the power of the subconscious, the things that are like rooted in our brain from such a young age that we sometimes don't even understand are there. Well, guess what? If they got there in the first place, they can be rewired.
Yep.
But it's through those habits. And Shawn, you've blown me out of the water so far, and just being able to see your story, hear your story, and being able to see how you've intertwined not only the business aspect of things, but the balance of what it takes to be, a human being. We're all humans at the end of the day. And
I truly appreciate you not only contacting me, but anybody that's along the podcasting journey. I know how hard it is, and I know that for you to be successful, whatever your definition of success is. If you want to love, if you want to give back, if you want to impact, it's a long-term commitment. You're in it for forever.
Yeah.
Like literally it's a forever thing. If you want to be successful in audio, in the internet, in video, in content creation, it's forever. It's who you are. It's in your DNA. You make that switch and you don't change. You only become better. You beta test along the way, but you become better. And, you know, you're already making an impact, and you just started. You know, you just started what you did before. Now you're only amplifying it, and you're going to continue to amplify, and the universe is going to continue to reward you. And now you and I, we're brothers. I mean, we're connected forever. Whatever you need, you reach out, and however I can help you or one of your listeners, I'm here. I'm right here in San Diego. I'm not going anywhere. Well, I am going to Bulgaria. So I'm either in San Diego or Bulgaria, but either way, if there's internet access, I'm accessible. So we're all good.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, where can anybody and everybody that's listening find you online, on social media, on your YouTube?
So one thing I will challenge people to do is to Google their own name and see what comes up. So not my name, but Google your name. So if you have one homework assignment, is Google your name and find out in the tabs in Chrome what comes up in the search results, what comes up in the news results, what comes up in the image results. That's your digital footprint. That's real estate. So that's who you are to the internet. It's not who you might be or who you might want to be, but once you start this digital journey of documenting who you are, what you care about, what you want to do, how you want to impact the world, you're going to need content there, so that when people research who are you and what do you do, they're not just going to check your Instagram profile. They're not just going to check your website. They're not just going to check LinkedIn. They're going to get all of it. And based off of their search, it's going to come up differently. So do that so that you're inspired to start creating more, because it's all about creating and it's all about sharing to make an impact. If people want to reach out to me, they just go to callibbq.media, or you can Google Cali BBQ and get an example of exactly what I just talked about. And there's probably 500 different ways that you can slide into my DMs, tweet at me, send me a message on LinkedIn. The more that you do, the more impressed I am. So I appreciate that. And if anyone is in San Diego or ever visits, even though we are closed for coronavirus, if they say they listen to the podcast, you get a VIP tour and some pit barbecue right off of the pit. That's courtesy of Mason and all the good work he's doing.
Hey, y'all heard.
And then we're gonna post about it. We're gonna take a video, we're gonna take photos, and we're gonna tweet it, and we're gonna tag him, and that's how it's gonna work.
Y'all heard him. Y'all heard him here first. Go visit and get some of that. I'm jealous. I actually will be in California. I don't know how close I'll be to San Diego. I have to look. We'll be in touch. But if I'm in the vicinity, you already know I'm going to be there. I got to
see. I've already planted the seed in your head. So now, whenever you think about San Diego, you go, well, there's one spot I have to go.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for your time. As always, guys, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and rate the podcast. Share this episode if it gave you some value today. Share it with someone who you think needs it. Share it with a friend. Share it with those people around you that we're talking about that you care about. And I highly always say this, but I highly encourage y'all to take one thing that Shawn or myself has said and implement it. Because if you just listen to this podcast and then at the end of it, you say, oh, that was good. That was good. I feel inspired. I feel jacked up. Okay, well, that's fine. That feeling's going to fade in a little bit. But if you use those things, if you do what Shawn says with your social media and your digital marketing, and you take those things and you utilize them, then you're going to be able to say, hey, I got something out of that podcast. And that's what the goal of this is. Motivation is great, but I want you to utilize these things as I am. I'm over here taking notes. Shawn sees me jotting down notes, jotting down books. I'm soaking it all in just as much as you guys are, and that's why you're part of the journey. So thank you so much. As always, check us out on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We're all there. So
if he's not on any of those platforms, I'm gonna shame him into getting onto them. So he will be.
Exactly. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you, Mason. Stay curious, get involved, and ask for help.